Blink once. Your airbag could already be inflated and deflating. How does a car decide to set off a tiny explosion inches from your face in time to help, not hurt? You buckle up and never think about the round panel in your steering wheel. In a real crash, that panel hides a cushion the size of a big trash bag. It fills in about 30 to 40 milliseconds, which is faster than a blink. Then it starts leaking on purpose, so you do not bounce off it like a trampoline. Here is the hard part your car has to solve. It has only a few thousandths of a second to answer a simple question. Is this a real crash, or did you just hit a pothole or a curb? If it fires too late, your head is already flying forward. If it fires too early or by mistake, you just got a face full of fireworks for no reason. It must commit before it knows the full crash. It only sees the first few milliseconds of the hit. That early part is the fingerprint. The car has to make a yes or no call while the story is still starting. The brain of this system is called the airbag control unit. It usually sits under the dash, quiet and patient. It reads tiny silicon sensors that feel acceleration thousands of times each second. These are called MEMS accelerometers, which are tiny chips that bend a little under force and turn that bend into a number. Crash pulses can be violent. These sensors can read jolts the size of 100 times gravity in either direction. That range lets them catch sharp hits in a rigid barrier test without going blind. No hand-waving here, they feel the real spike. The control unit does some fast math. It adds up the acceleration to get change in speed. Engineers call that delta V, which just means how much your speed has dropped so far. It also checks the shape and length of the pulse against stored patterns from known crashes. Older cars often had a backup called a safing switch. Picture a little steel ball held by a magnet. In a true deceleration, it rolls or snaps forward and closes a separate path. Both the computer and the ball had to agree before anything lit. Belt and suspenders during the early years. To have the bag ready by about 30 to 40 milliseconds, the decision to deploy must happen fast. We are talking 5 to 15 milliseconds after the first contact. That is 1 or 2 video frames on a phone. Why so early? In a 35-mile-per-hour rigid wall test, an unbelted head reaches the steering wheel area at about 50 milliseconds. The bag has to be up and shaped before that moment. There is no time to watch the whole crash and then decide. Most cars aim to deploy for a drop in speed around 12 to 14 miles per hour into a rigid barrier when the person is belted. That number shifts by model and test mode, but it is a useful ballpark. The point is, the call is made on partial data. The early pulse tells the tale. Once the algorithm says yes, the system still checks for agreement. 2 separate paths must both be true before current flows. Many cars use 2 independent firing loops, so one fault does not light the inflator by itself. The car checks the initiator circuit every time you turn the key. It looks at the tiny resistance of the squib, which is about 1 to 2 ohms, to see if the wire is intact. If it is out of range, you get the airbag warning light. Crashes can cut the battery line in an instant, so the control unit keeps reserve energy in big capacitors. They charge while you drive and stand ready. When needed, they dump a hard pulse of current to light the squib even if the 12-volt feed goes dark. Here is the fire part. The squib is like a match head with a thin bridge wire. The control unit sends current. The wire gets hot fast. The booster compound flashes into a small flame. That flame lights solid propellant pellets packed behind it. Early inflators used sodium azide to make gas. Most modern ones switch to blends like guanidine nitrate and tetrazoles. That cut toxicity risks and improved stability. Generants, which is just a word for gas makers, burn fast. They deliver usable gas in roughly 10 to 20 milliseconds. That gas is hot and dirty right off the burn, so the inflator forces it through tight stainless mesh and sintered filters. Those filters act like a heat sink and a strainer. They pull heat out and catch bits before the gas reaches the fabric. By the time it hits the bag, it is cool enough and clean enough to inflate without scorching. A driver airbag fills to about 60 to 70 liters. A passenger bag can be 100 to 160 liters, depending on the car. This is not a balloon of stored air. It is a tiny, solid fuel rocket that makes gas on demand and then lets it go. The cushion is not just a sack. Tethers sewn inside pull the fabric into a shape that meets your chest and face at the right angles. That keeps it from puffing into a big sphere that would not catch you well. Frontal airbags are intentionally leaky. They have vent holes, and the fabric itself lets gas pass. When you press into the bag, more gas escapes. A larger or faster person pushes more gas out, which softens the ride naturally. Many inflators have stages. The control unit can fire one charge or add a second, based on seat position, if you are belted, and what the seat weight sensor sees. On the passenger side, the system may stay off unless the seat senses around 30 to 40 kilograms. That helps protect children and small adults. Venting starts right away. Within about 100 to 200 milliseconds, much of the gas is gone. That prevents you from bouncing back like a ball and lets you settle into the belt and seat. It really is a single-use engine. Explode, inflate, cushion, and disappear. The bag does its whole job in less time than a blink, and then gets out of your way. Quick pause if you like clear, simple engineering stories like this. Tap subscribe so you catch the next one. Now back to the tiny rocket in your steering wheel. What if it goes wrong? The Takata case showed the risk. From 2013 to 2020, over 67 million inflators were recalled in the United States, and over 100 million worldwide. Moisture got into a type of propellant called phase-stabilized ammonium nitrate. Over time, it could swell and crack. In some deployments, pressure rose too fast and the metal can burst. That sent sharp pieces into the cabin, which was deadly in rare cases. This changed testing across the industry. Tighter moisture control, different chemistries, longer aging tests at heat and humidity. The lesson was simple. The gas maker must stay stable for many years in the real world. Airbags are not only in the wheel and dash. Side and curtain bags protect your head and torso from doors and glass. Many of those use different inflators or hybrids with stored gas. They may stay inflated longer to handle intrusions and second hits. A quick note on numbers. Exact thresholds and timings vary by car maker and model. The core dance stays the same. Detect, decide, ignite, and vent. The details are tuned to that specific car and its tests. This story goes back further than most people think. The first production airbags showed up in a 1973 Oldsmobile Toronado. Mercedes put them in the 1981 S-Class in Europe. Adoption took off in the 1990s, and today they are everywhere. There is a quiet cleverness in the power system, too. The control unit watches itself as you drive. It runs checks on sensors and wiring. It keeps those capacitors topped up, so even after a hard impact and a broken cable, it still has the energy to light the squib. Think about the timing one more time. 0 milliseconds, the bumper hits. Around 5 to 15 milliseconds, the control unit commits. Around 10 to 20 milliseconds, gas is already flowing. Around 30 to 40 milliseconds, the bag is at shape. By 1 to 2/10 of a second, it is venting down. That timing pairs with how your body moves. Your head and chest start forward as the car slows. The bag meets you as you arrive, then lets you sink into the seatbelt. The shape and vents make that ride firm but not harsh. Even the cushion fabric is a choice. It is woven to hold pressure for a blink and then let it go. Stitch patterns and coated patches control where it folds and how it opens. All of that is tuned by crash tests with dummies of many sizes. Engineers try to avoid nuisance deployments. The early pulse of a pothole is short and spiky. A real crash pulse lasts longer and builds different. The control unit learns that feel from mountains of test data and then freezes it into code. Safety is layers. Good structure, good belts, good seats, and good airbags. The airbag is not a magic shield. It is one part of the system. It works best with a seatbelt on and your seat set at a reasonable distance from the wheel. So here is the reframe. An airbag is a precisely timed single-use engine. It decides and finishes its work in under a blink. It is powered by a tiny solid fuel rocket you never see. It is so reliable you forget it is there until the 1 second you need it. If this kind of clear, nuts and bolts story is your thing, subscribe and stick around. There are more engines, bridges, chips, and cables waiting on the channel. Drop a like if this helped you see inside a familiar thing. Take care out there, and see you next time.